Sure.
And so we all did 2 minutes of power posing. So hopefully now they're all really like super motivated and excited. You're going to hear from Jonah about his story, social entrepreneurship, and then maybe if there's time we'll get to pitch him, just like yesterday. So without further ado, I'm going to expand the screen and we'll get going. All right. You're huge now. All right. So time is yours.
All right. So you said you want to do introductions first, or how do you want to do it?
Okay, great. So why don't we start, Henry?
Hey, Henry.
Hey, I'm from Brazil.
Brazil. Cool.
Hi, my name is Dennis. I'm from Berlin, Germany.
Hi, Jonah. I'm Mark Matsuki. I'm from Indiana.
Jonah Halper, please come to the
Hang
second
on.
floor large conference room.
Just have to unplug my phone. My apologies. Okay. Say your name again.
Mark?
Mark from where?
Indiana.
Very nice.
I'm Eric from New Jersey.
I'm Jennifer from Florida. I'm Amanda from Germany. I'm Hannah from Michigan. I'm Anna, Moscow, Russia. I'm Marie. I'm from Massachusetts.
I'm Ron from Toronto, Canada.
I'm Umar from Moscow, Russia. I'm Daniela. I'm from Israel. I'm Ariana from Florida. I'm Eileen. I'm from Texas. I'm Gisela. I'm from Fairfield County, Connecticut.
Very nice. I'm Jonah Halper. I'm from New York because I've been here for the last 6-7 years, but I'm originally from Boston.
They're from Providence.
Well, both. I lived in Boston for 6 years, and then Providence for the next 16 years. So I'm a Red Sox fan. That's all that matters.
Great. So the screen is yours.
All right, excellent. So I was asked by Dave to discuss a little bit about social entrepreneurship, my story, and then see how it relates to what you're working on. Because from my understanding, you're all kind of coming up with some great ideas and some action plans on how to implement it. So hopefully, maybe through some of my thoughts, and we'll add a little layer of or a lens that you can look through when you're implementing what you're trying to do. So. Social entrepreneurship. I mean, there's a couple different definitions that are typically used, but most of them that are out there typically talk about the idea of creating and sustaining social impact that solves a problem. So it could be something large scale. It could be something like mass transit and getting people from point A to point B. So, investing in highways and infrastructure like 100 years ago. Or it could be something like providing for Holocaust survivors who don't have access to basic medication. It's any perfect problem that you think that you have a solution for, that you can create and sustain. And I really want to emphasize the 2 steps of create and sustain, because a lot of times the create or the ideas are the easy part. It's the sustain that really proves your mettle, proves whether it's something that can, survive. Because the ideas are cheap in a way. If you can't make it work long term, then there's no ability for it to ever see any kind of success, the mission of your organization. So my background is the sustain piece. I like to say that I don't have any original ideas of my own. I like to take other people's ideas and make them happen. I'm a fundraiser by trade. So that means for the last 10 years or so, I'm really good at taking a mission of an organization and going out to the community and developing the relationships and raising money for that mission. It's what I'm good at doing. And what I've found is that there's a lot of new organizations popping up, new initiatives that are happening independently of the big institutions, in a big like whether it's universities or Jewish organizations or whatever it is, or sometimes it's a startup, someone with $200 in their pocket wanting to start a nonprofit of their own and saying, I have a solution to a problem that I don't think anyone else is tackling, and I have a unique way to do it. So basically the idea is that I've seen a lot of organizations come in with great ambition, great ideas, But because my schooling and my training is how to make it last and make it succeed and bring the money in and find the right partners and create a model that will see that this will have some legs to it and survive, I see a lot of organizations that kind of disappear. And it's no different than the business world, right? Because for every 10 ideas, maybe 2, succeed. I don't know the exact statistic, but most startups don't succeed. And that's nothing bad, it's nothing wrong, it's just a reality is that starting something new isn't something easy. So when you're talking about starting something new, having the foresight and ideas and understanding that you need more than just an idea, that you need to think in terms of how is this going to be sustainable? What's my reach, my network, my people, and how do I extend beyond that? Do I need other partners, people who can help me reach an audience that I wouldn't necessarily have access on my own? Do I have enough money in my own pocket to succeed in this mission? Do I need to get other money? How's that money coming in? Is that money coming in from private gifts as donations? Is it coming from a stream of revenue that's treated like a business, so you have a way of charging people for like a fee for service? It's thinking in those terms of how is this going to get me from point A to point B? So my background, besides the fundraising piece, is working with nonprofits. I do consulting work, so I teach nonprofits how to sustain their operations, and that usually translates for most nonprofits into fundraising. So I will work with them and help them be creative, be strategic on reaching out to new donors, existing donors, how to take their existing donors and get them to give more money, how to find new opportunities so that people who may not feel as connected to the organization and the mission feel more connected, and ultimately be strategic in saying if our goal was to raise a certain amount of money in year 1, we're going to raise that amount of money plus X in year 2. And if it means us diversifying how the money comes in, then I'm thinking in those terms as well. So basically, and also I want to mention is that because I'm young, I'm 32. My audience, my network tends to be on the younger side. So knowing that the tools and the way we communicate in the 21st century has drastically changed than in the last even 10 years, I'm uniquely positioned to both have been classically trained on how to raise money in kind of the typical the fundraising model, but also I've learned a lot of the new ways of doing it. And there's so many great tools and resources out there that especially if you're a startup and you have an idea and you're very passionate about, that you can use that'll cost you little or no money, that will help take your cause and your mission and get it in front of its intended audiences. And that's really, it's a double-edged sword. It's great because it's free and it's cheap and it's easy to use, and if you're smart and you think about who your audience is and how you can get it in front of them, but at the same time, because it's free and cheap, or cheap, anyone can do it, which means that there's a lot of clutter. Right? Think about it. If you want to throw together an e-newsletter or a mailing, or you want to do an event. I live in the New York City area now. Do you know how many nonprofit events or how many social events happen in a given week? I mean, I could fill my entire calendar with these charity events and go to it every night of the week, and I won't differentiate one from the other. It's all the same kind of typical kind of event. So you need to think in terms of, okay, the tools are free, but how do I stand out? How do I really make an impression on my intended audience that will say, I'm different, I have something that's unique, I have something that I can develop into a real relationship and separate me from the competition. So a lot of my clients are majority of my clients are from the nonprofit world, but what I ultimately do is I help them really think through how they're communicating with their audience and break through that clutter, develop a real relationship, and a relationship that translates into results, which ultimately means, in my world, revenue, raising money for their organization. So that's kind of my bag of tricks. I'm actually I'm penning a book. I'm writing a book right now. I haven't even told Dave, so I guess you're hearing it for the first time now. I'm writing a book called Date Your Donors, about the idea that fundraising is accessible to anyone, because for the most part, fundraising is about human relationships. It's about you developing a human connection with somebody. And to make that point really clear is that, let's say you have two, education organizations that do almost the exact same thing, right? They look the same, they function the same, but one maybe does the job better with your dollar. Let's say you give $1 of charity, they can take the majority of that dollar and impact your cause in a stronger way than the other one. But even the organization that doesn't do as good of a job with your dollar, they can be the one that gets the money from the donor because they have the relationship. In other words, the cause is important, but the relationship is the king. In other words, that's really what is going to drive the money to your organization, the human connection, the relationship you develop. So I'm writing a book basically saying, if you want to fundraise or you want to raise capital of any kind, it's like dating. Right? If you walked over to a girl in the subway or a guy in the subway and said, "Will you marry me?" as the first conversation point, what's the chances of them saying yes? None. Even if I were to actually give you my resume and say, "I'm great with kids. I'm someone you can bring home to mother. I'm somebody who is considerate. I make a good living. I'll give you a list of references. My boss who can tell you I make good money. I'm a good employee. I can look great on paper." Great on paper, but you're still not going to marry me. Why? Because there's no relationship there. You don't know me. You don't have a relationship with me. So even though I look great on paper, in typical American society, we actually date and court and we develop a relationship to the point where we get married to them. So the same thing is with fundraising. Right? You can go to somebody and say you're the greatest thing since sliced bread and walk in that door and the first thing out of your mouth is, we're a great Jewish education institution. We're a great special needs organization. We're great at this or great at that. Will you give me $10,000? That's the equivalent of saying, will you marry me on the first date? It doesn't happen. You might get an $18 check. You might get a no-think gift. But the real money, the big gift, the one that they have to pause and say, is this something I want to invest in? That comes from the relationship. And there's no silver bullet to avoid it. Like, there's no way around it. The only way that you're going to succeed in whatever you're doing is to develop real relationships. And some of the tricks about the real relationships is being other-focused. In other words, if you're coming out of the gate and like me, and it's all about you, think about it just like human relationships. If the person you're hanging out with is always about them and not about anybody else, it gets annoying and it gets old very fast. You don't want to be around them. But if your goal as a fundraiser is how to make your experience better, right? You're going to give away money, but I want to make sure that you feel connected to it, you're passionate about it, that you love what you do. So if I can provide that for you, give you a fantastic experience and become your liaison, your connection for your philanthropy, then people will appreciate it, they'll enjoy your company, and they're going to want to give to your organization. So, Dave, what's next up? I know that everyone's working on their projects. Should we get right into it, or is there questions, or how do you want to do it?
First, let's see if anybody has any questions about some of the stuff we talked about, and then we get into the pitches.
All right, awesome. Let's see. You right there on my left, your right. The guy right there in the middle of the table. Yeah, and then we'll go to the back.
Okay. Can you give an example of something that would help better relationships, something that makes one organization stand out from the normal bake sale kind of mentality?
So, well, first of all, you have to remember this, because we're in the technology age, some things that are typical 25 years ago are no longer done. Like, for example, handwritten notes, right? Like, who writes a handwritten note anymore, right? But if you do something, you have a connection with somebody and you meet somebody and you write them a handwritten note, I guarantee you that it's a success, because they see that you're putting the investment in them or doing anything that's focused on them and their needs. So if I see an article that I think Dave would be interested in, I'll keep that in my mind and say, I'll shoot this over to Dave because I think he'll appreciate it. And it shows that I'm thinking of Dave and I'm trying to do something for him. But if you're talking about events, the trick about events is, it's not really a trick. The trick is really that you have to think about being different. You have to say, if I'm going to make an event on a given week, how do I stand out that I'm the event that's chosen, right? Because the cause is not going to be what gets them in the door. It's going to be the nature of the event. So if I can go to 11 different rubber chicken dinners and hear speeches, it's not going to happen. It's going to be a waste of my time. But if you find something, and even if it's bar night, how many bar nights are there? I can go to bar on my own. I don't need to go to an event to go drink. I mean, I can go on with my buddies and go drink. So why should I come to your event? So you need to start just asking yourself, how do I separate myself out? And for example, I'll use a real example. I was raising money in New York City, and this was the issue with events. And I wanted to try to do an event that was different, that I brought people out, that was very kind of collegial. Like, it wasn't just you sit at a table and you don't interact, but at the same time would allow for an event that's very different than other events that someone says, like, wow, that's a really cool thing. So I started doing a charity poker tournament in the city with a bunch of like real estate and hedge fund guys. And obviously they a lot of these guys play poker with their friends on a Thursday night. So it was just saying, take your poker game and bring it to this event. And the nature of the event was just different than the other events that were out there. Now, granted, there are plenty of other poker events going on in New York City now, which means that it's not the right type of an event to do anymore if you're coming out the gate. I might be able to do it because I was first in, right? Or one of the first in the market. But once it becomes, commonplace, you have to think, okay, well, poker now isn't going to be the thing that draws. I got to think in a new, unique way. This premise, this idea of how you stand out, is popularized in a guy who I really enjoy, Seth Godin. I mean, he's a marketing guru, and he talks about the purple cow. And the example he uses is that if you're driving in the country with your family and you see cows on the side of the highway, right? You'll say, "Hey, kids, look, a cow." Right? And everyone's like, wow, cows. They see the cows, right? But after you see the 10th, 11th, or 12th cow, you're like, it's just another cow, right? It's no longer interesting until you see a purple cow, right? Obviously, there's no purple cow, but the idea is that you have to shake things up. You constantly have to think creatively. Whatever I'm doing, if I'm going to send out an email, what's going to be my purple cow? What's going to make it that I stand out and look different than other emails? If I'm going to do an event, how's it going to look different? If I'm going to send a thank you, what does that look like? You're really always on. There's no shortcut to say this is the tried and true method and it's the only way to do it. You really have to be an artist. And that's another thing that Seth Godin talks about all the time. Whether you're a barista at Starbucks or you're a big shot CEO, it depends on how you tackle your job, right? If you clock in and you just treat it like a job, then you'll be mediocre. And you may get your paycheck, and that's fine, but you're just going to be mediocre. If you're willing to be creative and be on the fringe and be an artist, and it makes no difference what type of job you're in, that's when you stand out. So if you're an organization or you're trying to accomplish something, it's about standing out and being that artist.
Thank you. Great. So just to give you a bit of context, I'm assuming for the question, is they're putting on a benefit concert with the instrumental music class. They're getting together on the 23rd and doing a benefit concert. So it's up to them to run all on their own, and so they're going to do a good job, and I think that was helpful.
Cool. Next, in the back. Lady in blue.
Do you remember your first experience in entrepreneurship? Like your first event?
Well, it's funny because by definition, entrepreneurship doesn't mean like starting your own organization and being, big shot startup. It's about just doing something that's different and that wasn't working. So, for example, my first job was a fundraiser in the Jewish Federation in Baltimore, Maryland. Okay, and they gave me a portfolio, and it's a big organization, so they really divide it down on what you're responsible for. So I was responsible to raise money from doctors, right? And they said to me, we have a Maimonides Society, which is this group, a society that they created, an artificial name and honor, that if you give $1,000 to the Jewish Federation and you're a doctor, you're a member of the Maimonides Society. But it was an internal description. Like, there's no doctor in the community who had their Maimonides Society diploma on their wall next to their Harvard Medical School diploma. Like, there was no branding. There was no appreciation. It was, if you happen to be a doctor and you happen to give $1,000, like, ta-da, you're in the Maimonides Society. So I realized there was an opportunity there because, A, I knew other communities did create a real strong community of doctors and found ways to get them involved and developed like a cachet for those communities. So I said, well, how do I do that here in Baltimore? We've got these great hospitals. We've Johns Hopkins. We've got University of Maryland. We've got all these great institutions. How do we anchor in them? And how do we solve this problem of getting these doctors who are not involved and have the capacity to give real money? How do we get them to give? So I was 21 years old when I was working there, 20 or 21 years old. And they said, like, Jonah, do what you want to do with it. And basically, I decided that I was going to create a doctor's division and a Maimonides Society. So the Maimonides Society was still in existence, but what I did is I created a division where doctors could get involved in the Jewish community. So we created a medication samples drive where I literally took a U-Haul and drove to doctors' offices and picked up medications from their office, and we sent it to Cuba, Argentina, and a few other places. And ultimately, they got connected to our organization because they were volunteering their time and other things like that. And then, if you think about it, if we're getting another one thing we did was called Dialogue with the Docs, where doctors would speak at these nursing homes or kind of assisted living facilities where they would talk about, like, we'd have 3 doctors around breakfast and they would rotate around the tables to talk about rheumatoid arthritis or stomach issues or whatever it is, and they loved it, right? But it connected the doctors in. And what happened is when we would do an event now, you would have people at the event who were members of the doctors division, and then the people who were members of the Maimonides Society would have a special ribbon on their shirt to show that they were part of an elite group. So we created this big division so that the Maimonides Society would have this distinction as being something of an exclusive club, that there would be special value added, that if you were a member of the Maimonides Society, you were participating in it. That means access to special speakers. I think we might have done a pre-reception before the main event so that they could have like an intimate get-together with the guest speaker that we brought in for the event. But the idea was to package it in a way that now the Maimonides Society had some real value. So in my mind, that's my first kind of entree into being an entrepreneur, because I was given the leash to say, we've got a problem, we're not raising enough money, it's got no cachet, how do we fix it? And they gave me the leash to try to, solve that issue. Yes?
Doesn't philanthropy have to do a lot with playing on emotions?
Absolutely, it's so much about that. I mean, before you get to the emotion piece, which is basically the relationships, like I mentioned, it's mission, right? If you don't have a solid mission, like you're all working on things, or hopefully working on things that are going to have an impact in the community, whether it's big or small. So if your product isn't good, then you're not going to get very far, because it's very hard to sell something or develop that relationship with something if you don't truly believe in it. And the best compliment a fundraiser ever gets, it's never, you're a great fundraiser, or you know how to schmooze really well. It's never that. It's, I see you believe in what you're doing. That's the best compliment you will ever get as a professional fundraiser. They see the enthusiasm. They see the passion you have about the project. So the motion and the connection is critical. But at the same time, if the product itself isn't compelling, if it is not solving a problem and it's not sustainable for whatever reason, then it's going to be very hard to sell to people. So the motion's important, but you got to have a solid product.
Great. Anybody have one last question before we pitch? Awesome. Okay, so we have 4 groups, and
I have just one last question.
okay, follow up.
Cool.
As Dave has mentioned, we're putting together a benefit concert at the end of the month, and we would just like to know we would just like to have your advice on how we can outreach Jewish families in Boston outside of the university itself.
So the most important thing, and this is often a mistake that people make, is they assume they guess what those families want. The best way to know is to talk to a few. In other words, unless you put yourself in their shoes, you really don't know what's important to them or how important it is to them. Is it worth for them to get a babysitter to go out to your event? If they get a babysitter, it means that they got to spend, $60 on babysitting services. They got to, get all dressed up. They got to go out. So you've got to really get a sense of your audience and say, is this important to them? What would be attractive to them? So if you have ideas and you know somebody who's in the community or a few people, run it by them. Get their feedback. You could sit around a boardroom table and take guesses, but there's nothing that's going to do a better job than to speak to the people that you're going to serve.
We're going to live stream the concert and try to get tips. You think it'll work?
Live stream the concert and get people that make donations, like tips on the thing?
Yeah, there's a company called Stage It that I think Evan Lowenstein.
Sure, Evan and Jared.
Yeah. You know them?
I believe it or not, I admit to this, but I think I was like heavily drinking at a bar in Israel when I met one of them playing at the. So I met one of them. I can't. They both look very similar. They're twins, right? So I'm not sure which one I met, but I met one of them.
concert to raise money that way.
Right. Well, the question, I mean, here's the question. Is the audience savvy enough? I mean, you and I are, have no problem interacting in that kind of interface. The question is, does the average person, like, is it conducive for them? Will they get it? You know what I'm saying? Is the learning curve simple enough? Is the interface easy enough for them to understand it? And can you make the case for why they should do it on the call? Like, is there a way to almost like precede it? Like, not assume that they'll give, but to coach it or shape the conversation around it, saying, we're going to do this, and if you tip or sponsor or donate, whatever language is you want to use, we'll be able to help us do X, Y, and Z. And then even let them know that what the eye on the prize, like what's that money doing, what's the goal of it, let them know where it's going, so that when you're actually doing it, it's not out of nowhere. They actually have it. They have an idea in context of why they're giving.
Terrific. Helpful?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you.
So with our 4 groups, I'm going to ask one person from each group to do a mini pitch, and it has to be someone different than who pitched earlier today. Okay, so it has to be someone different than who pitched earlier today. So you take 30 seconds or 10 seconds and figure out who's going to do it, and then let's see who wants to go first. Anybody right away ready? Anybody ready?
All right, I'll do it. So,
Wait. Someone raise their hand.
So we were talking earlier about the benefit concert, and we're cooperating with music, and they're picking an issue. So we came up with the idea to do a literary magazine, and we're going to focus on that specific issue and donate the money, sell it for like $1, and donate the money we received there to the organization we're working with.
The magazine, what's the circulation? How many people is it going out to?
Right now we're thinking just the Genesis.
You got to speak up. I can't hear you.
Right now we're thinking just the Office of High School Programs, like here, the Genesis and Beaver.
It's like 200 people.
Yeah.
And the idea is that people are going to pay for the magazine, or I'm just give me an idea how it works.
Like $1, and that money will be donated to the organization.
Will it be donated to?
The organization that will be chosen. I don't know.
I see. So you're saying the max dollars raised is $200. Sorry, 200 people times $1, right?
Well, people can donate more, but we haven't really figured out the logistics yet.
Well, but those are important questions. Like, for example, people can donate more. What does that mean? In other words, are you happy? Is it a success? Let's say you get every single person in the program to donate $1. That's 200 people to donate $1. Is that, now it may be success for you, and that's fine. But you want to come out the gate and say, ultimately, what is it that I'm trying to raise, for what purpose, and say, will this get us there? So, for example, if you're saying, really we need to raise $1,000, so you might say, okay, this is a start. It'll get us, 1/5 of the way there. But what do we need to do to get to our goal? So thinking about with the eye on the prize, like, well, ultimately, what is it you're trying to solve? Back to the social entrepreneur, you're trying to solve a problem. It might you need funding for a program you're doing. Okay, that's great. Now, if the magazine is going to raise money towards that, is that the end-all be-all? Is that going to be one of a number of solutions? If people can donate more than $1, how are you going to facilitate that? Why give more than $1? What do I get for my extra money that I give? And if it's just a warm and fuzzy feeling, then how are you going to convey that to your audience?
Well, we haven't really discussed all that yet. We just came up with the idea
Sure.
today. We'll get back to you.
Cool.
We haven't really set prices yet, but it's also not even just about donating money to an organization, but the actual pieces in the magazine are focused on that theme, on the issue of whatever cause that is. So it's also raising awareness.
Cool, that's fine, and there's plenty of organizations. The entire mission is advocacy, and a lot of those are soft, like tangibles, not tangibles, like soft impact that's hard to measure because your mission is to raise awareness, and that's fine, as long as it's clear what your goals are from the outset.
Good job.
All right, cool.
You're volunteer to go next.
Yeah, great. So organization is called Profiteer. and we wanted like high school students in America, they have like to require community serving hours, and like mostly they do it like for example, like if there's a school and there's like a hospital near to it, they do it at the hospital, but like there are lots more possibility for the students and for the organizations. So we want to like create a website to like offer students and organizations to find each other and like to connect to like serve community hours.
Cool. And is that for American students?
Yeah, it is.
Nice. Very cool. Is there something specific I can do to help? I mean, it's a fascinating idea. Just make sure to well research who you're planning on serving. Making sure, of course, like you said, the website's important, and making sure that it's very natural for them to connect and volunteer, but to make sure that you're providing the value both to the volunteer and to the organization that they will be volunteering at. And you might even be able to think about how you partner with organizations like a soup kitchen or other types of institutions that need volunteers. If you're providing a matching service, if you're able to fill a need where they have empty spots, how to fill those needs, and find, if you can find the students and you can find the places that need to be filled, maybe you got a little almost like a matchmaking service. That's fantastic.
I can see it as like, have you ever heard of the app Hotel Tonight?
No.
It's an app that finds boutique hotel empty spots, but it's only for today. It's like an iPhone app. So if you open it, it has like, New York, here are the 16 hotels. It's normally $500 a night to stay at, whatever the standard. Tonight, there's 3 rooms left and they're $150, right? So I can see making an app or a site that like, we need people today or tomorrow, which is like you guys found that there are volunteer opportunity matching sites, but maybe there's nothing that's like the on-demand kind of stuff.
I like that a lot, because I don't think
you desperately need to fill your hours. Here's 10 opportunities right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of people don't plan things in advance, and I think that's a really smart idea of saying like, oh crap, it's Sunday and I need to do my hours. What can I find in the area?
Great. Okay, volunteer to go next. Yes.
So our group is called, our business is called WWYH, What You Have, and we're creating an application that allows you to scan the food that you have in your house, and it will identify it and give you recipes, like healthy recipes, for what you can cook with it, and it will also provide instructional videos for how to do basic things. And the goal of it is that since a lot of young adults now, especially in North America, don't know how to cook, and therefore either have fast food or rely on their parents to cook them food. This is a way to like teach them how to cook and to have more healthy meals.
It's cool. I mean, there's so many people who'd be interested in that information. Just the data from that. Imagine supermarkets. You can, America's on a health, bend right now, or probably for the foreseeable future. There's a great opportunity to be that resource. And again, the data that comes out of that, what people want and how they behave, and what they do with the food. I mean, it's tremendous application. It could impact, Whole Foods. Imagine doing something like that with Whole Foods. I mean, you've got tremendous like infrastructure that you have to build. It ain't going to be cheap what you want to do. That's clear. You're going to have to get a lot of money, and but the idea is very noble, and I think it's a really cool idea. And I think I could just tell you, my wife would love to use that. I mean, my wife cooks like a machine, and she loves to cook, and she's smart, and she does healthy, but always open to new ideas. To scan something and say what's some interesting applications. Here, boom, asparagus. Like, what can I do with asparagus? Or that kind of thing. I think it's fantastic. It's very, but again, it ain't going to be cheap.
Our idea is to create a social network that will be all about doing good deeds. Like this day, when you think of Facebook and stuff like that, all the grown-up and the parents think there's such negative references that go with Facebook and social network. And this social network is dedicated to good deeds. So the thing is, like, it's gonna be a page of missions in the website, and like, go to 5 strangers in the street and say to them hello. And I will be and I will take a video of myself doing it, and I will upload it to the social network, and all my friends can see it. And like, it just like had comment about it, and there was like an idea that maybe some of the missions will be more valuable and some will less, like harder missions and not so hard missions, and we'll get virtual money from it, and maybe we can do something with it. So that's such a rough idea right now.
So I like the idea. It's going to be tough to do a separate social network, but you can create a way to embed yourself where you can embed yourself into existing social networks. And I understand your concern about the, is it the appropriate place? Is it positive or negative? But the truth is that you got to remember you're trying to change people's habits, and that's the hardest thing to do. And if you're asking them to log onto a new social network, like think about just the other ones that have been rebranded recently, like MySpace, right? Like MySpace when I was a kid was huge. It died, and now they're trying to bring it back, and it's tough. So think about how you can leverage existing ones to do this, and also you have a kind of like a flash mob, element to it. It's like the idea where you're gonna, you say hug 5 people, and the ability to record it, and then show everybody that you're hugging 5 people. I guess, to show that with your friends, and your friends are doing it. I think that's a really high energy and high octane thing. And if you're getting everyone to kind of hug people, I think it's a really cool thing to share. It might be something that catches on. I mean, there's no guarantees with, whether something goes viral or not. But I like the idea of kind of flash mobbing, like telling your friends, let's go hug 5 people, right? Capture it on camera, but use Facebook or use Twitter in order to showcase that. You can log in nowadays. You can use the API to, if I'm getting too specific, but basically you can use their networks to be able to connect with your friends without having to create something from scratch. It'll be cheaper. You're going to build on something that's successful, and it'll be you can make it focused. You don't have to make it where it's anybody can comment and be not nice or something like that. You can find ways to do it, but it's really tough to do a separate social network. But it's a creative idea, and you never know. It's the creative, different ideas that are the ones that work.
Great. Okay. Well, thank you very much. Does anyone else have any other questions? Okay. Thanks, Jonah.
Excellent.